you, Lot's wife is mentioned 3 times in the scriptures. 3 times. And she doesn't even have a name. That's the second thing that caught me was this. When you are disobedient, your life is set on disobedience. When you do not acknowledge God and try to live for Him, you're just among all of those other nameless sinners. Lot's wife was never mentioned by name. Does that surprise you? Does that surprise you, Catherine?
Yeah, but how many times did she disobey? I mean, it doesn't say that either, does it?
Well,
I mean,
but it never said.
It
never said she obeyed. See, I mean, Lot is mentioned several places.
Right.
She's only mentioned 3. That Lot with Abraham, and when Lot was making the choices, and when Lot chose Sodom, that was before this woman. So she must have been from Sodom, or I don't know that. That was speculation. But 3 times she was mentioned, and not by name. And so escape your life and look not behind you. So what do you think this lesson about Lot's wife teaches us, pertains to us? What about this lesson? Not this lesson, this account of Lot's wife. What does this teach us?
We need to be obedient even when it's hard.
And even when it doesn't seem important. You know, that's just in a list of escape for your life, look not behind you, stay in the plains, go to the mountains. If you miss that little, don't look behind you. Which she did.
And yet it was a direct command.
It was.
It was a direct command. And so, in the middle of that second paragraph, it says disobedience was her sin. Her fate testifies to each generation the gravity of violating divine instructions. And so why does God require obedience? And you know, in preparing for this, I am thinking, she talks a lot about the fact that God demands obedience for our own good, and we should know that. I mean, even the things that cause us a struggle to do, they're for our own good. When you look at a sinner's life, the richest sinner you know, and when you look at his life, and you look at a struggling Christian's life, the struggling Christian is still much better off in their own good. The ultimate being the judgment. One's going to heaven, one's going to hell. But on this earth, I am telling you that I have seen and recognized and thought of this in seeing people, let's say for an example, I think I was really young when I first noticed this. That my brothers and I were at a carnival. And some of the people that were there that looked like they used their grocery money to come to the carnival were holding hands and laughing. And yet, some of the richest we know can't even carry on a civil conversation with one another. If money and fame brought happiness, I would point to you, Mickey's friend, Donald Trump. Before anybody even knew he had a political thought, this man was among the wealthiest. This man was sought out to be because he was one of the elite. If they had a party in New York City, they wanted Donald Trump there. He was at Hillary and Bill's wedding. So he had money. He's good, but well, fairly good looking. That was before the hair thing. He was fairly good looking. He had fame. He was sought after. He was among those that you would call the very elite. So with money, fame, being sought after, elite with all of the celebrity people, then why do you think he kept getting married and divorced and married and divorced and married and divorced? I'm sorry?
I said, have you heard him talk?
Well, yes.
Yes.
But I'm saying, if that brought happiness, why aren't they? Look at Elon Musk. There was a piece, was it this last week or this last week, that he has now, this thing, something or other he's done, brought in $6 trillion, and he is now the richest man in the world. Do you see a happy? He's nuts. I am saying for our own good. None of those things bring us happiness. None of those things. But I'm telling you, being poor doesn't make you happy either. But you got a better chance of being happy poor than you do rich. I believe that. Because it's kind of like I am about chocolate. There's never enough. You know? So they're never happy. But anyway, it's because it's good for us. If we're not obeying God, we're obeying Satan. And I thought about this contrast too. Y'all know my career was in counseling. And I did a lot of substance abuse counseling. I want you to think about the people who live in sin. It can not only affect their health and their well-being, it can affect their minds. And by that I mean, once you get an obsession, once you get an addiction, once it's there, I'm telling you, the mind is a powerful thing. And I can tell you that I only know of 4 in my years of working with alcoholics. I only know 4 that quit without relapse, and some more than 1 relapse. I'm not saying there were only 4 that got over it. I'm not saying that. But not without falling back, because the mind pulls you to where you are. So when God says, where your heart is, there will be your treasures also. I will tell you, where your life is, that's where your mind keeps taking you.
And it doesn't have to just be substance abuse. We're addicted to gaming these days. We're addicted to our phones. We can get addicted to other things that cause our mind.
Amy, not we can.
We do.
We are.
We are, yes.
We are. We are literally, and even when we know, when we are listening, or some don't listen, but that's okay too, I wish I did sometimes. But the new thing in the mental health field, this addiction is destroying our nation.
I think you're seeing it in the youth because they watch those little 30-second reels all day and they cannot focus.
And I don't just see that there, I am telling you, Amy, whenever we are using 6 to 8 hours a day on a device, how many hours are you spending in serving God? How many hours are you teaching God's word? How many hours are you visiting? How many hours are you studying? How many hours are you trying to make contact, real contact, not on a device, with others? And I am telling you, I am shocked sometimes when that thing comes on and tells me how many hours I was on my phone that week. I am shocked because I'm not on Facebook, I'm not on Instagram, I'm not on Chatbox, I'm not on TikTok. TikTok. I think that's a bread now. But whatever that tick thing is, I'm not on it. And so I know if this says to me that I'm on my device that long, I cannot imagine some of the people I know. I can't imagine what their number is. And yet we say, my priority is God. My priority is God. And so it's absolute one or the other. Then at the top of page 29, it says the absolute justice of God requires that he reward the righteous and punish the evildoer. And it's just exactly like this subject we're on. There's not a person in this room that would say the phone is evil. Not one person. Or that TV is evil. Or many of the things that we do. Could be 42, maybe. But no way would we say they're evil because they're not. But we can make evil out of anything.
Tracy was telling me that they were gone all day to somewhere in the Metroplex with the band and doing a competition. And she said, riding from Aledo over to the Metro, to HEB area, she said the kids all around her were playing a game. She said it's called Preach. And she said, I thought, oh, what's this going to involve? And I'm going to have to be the one to put the hiatus on it. And she said, Mom, I was amazed. She said, whoever's turn it is, you just name anything. And they have X amount of time to preach about it. And they tell you all the good things that it can be for. And I was thinking about it because we talked, you said not a one of us would say a phone is bad. Well, a phone is very good. It saved my life once. And she said they tell all the good things it can be, and then they tell all the bad things that it could also be. And she said, I was just amazed at what those kids came. They have 1 minute to talk. And she said, I was amazed at the things those kids could think of. And she said, it was actually a good lesson. And you wouldn't have thought about it. She said, I was ready to jump all over it being something bad. And she said, it made me think about a lot of things.
Well, and I am saying, I believe, as like you said, it saved your life. I believe the phone is good. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the phone. I'm saying it's wrong with the user. God's not going to judge that device. God's going to judge what you're doing with it.
Right.
And so, and we talk, and particularly the mental health right now is all about what it's doing to our kids. But I look around me and I think, well, that can't compare to what it's doing to our adults. That's where they spend their life, is on the device. And the young people, you know, all of us have dated at some time in our life. These young people don't. They just talk to each other.
Mike from school, he was saying when they first took their phones away from school, he was a little worried about how things were gonna go. He said that's the best thing that's ever happened. You would not believe how attentive the kids are in class. And when they come to the cafeteria, they're all sitting around visiting and talking with each other. They're actually communicating.
That's what I was fixing to say. How many times have you been in a restaurant and seen a table of 4 people and all 4 of them are doing this? So I am saying that God requires justice, and the righteous will be rewarded, and the evildoer will be punished.
Maybe that's why it didn't tell Lot's wife's name, because we could put any of our names in that hole. Because it wasn't about who she was, it was what she didn't do.
Exactly, exactly.
Well, in today's world, we see these judges that do not require justice and let these people off. And I was reading this one that had 39 felonies, and he was not, then the judge was gonna let him out go again. We want justice for the evildoer to keep them from harming our society.
And that goes back to this statement that God's plan for our life is good for us. It keeps us safe. And so then we were, this thinking of the good and the evil, there is so much that we learn from God on how to, okay, a marriage. Take a marriage that is faithful Christians, people who believe in God. Look at the difference in how they talk to one another, to how they interact with one another. When you look at these domestic abuse and coming home drunk and cussing out their wife and yelling at the kids, and what if we had no law of God? What would we be? What would we be without law? What would you be in your job if there were no rules?
Cutthroat.
No rules whatsoever. What if you got a job, and so you went to work that morning and you said, what do I do? And they say, well, that's up to you. We don't have any plan. We don't have any rules. We have nothing. You're snooze please. In school, what if you didn't have rules? What would happen to the children, Amy, in 30 minutes?
It should be chaos.
So for our own good, and God will.
But that brings up a good point. Rules do no good if there's not consequences. Because we have rules.
I was fixing to get to
Okay,
this.
sorry.
The absolute justice of God requires reward of the righteous and punishment of the evildoer. And then this next headline here was very good for me. It said, obedience must be learned. Even Jesus. It even says that Jesus learned obedience by the things that he suffered. So having a law means nothing if you don't have to obey it. Well, you have to obey it is definitely judged by the consequences. By the consequences of the act. God has used drastic means to teach obedience to his children because the lesson is so important. To do this, he made the rewards for obedience great and the consequences of the disobedience very severe. And so we look around and we're kind of like David said, when I see the ungodly prospering, when I see all of this, my foot almost slipped. That does not mean that our rewards for obedience are all going to be here. Money, fame, everything that we look at as a reward. No, no, no. Our reward can be a peace of knowing that we're right with God. Our peace can be that we have peace with one another. Our reward can be that our life is without chaos, without the addiction, without all of the things that come with disobedience to God's will. But the consequences, on the other hand, that's not exactly true. Because you disobey and use mind-altering drugs, whether it be alcohol or other drugs, you can become addicted. You become sexually active and you can have a disease or worse. The disobedience, I think, is dealt with faster than what we recognize as the rewards of obedience. So tell me, what reward do you see in obeying God? What do you see now? Now, not the future hope. What do you see as a reward now?
Praise Him.
It is, I mean, our family.
This is one of the things that we forget or don't recognize or don't elaborate on. This is one of the greatest blessings that God did in establishing the church, that we can have a family. You know, I think of our friend that sits right back there. He didn't have family. He didn't have anybody. One old aunt. And yet we are a family to him. There are people here that go and take care of him. I know of no one that has done more than Jen Bell. I don't know how in the world, because I can get up within a few hours, but not overnight and the next day. But I'm just saying, we have this. Why aren't we using it? Why aren't we? And this is a close group, but why aren't we closer than we are? Because that's one of the greatest blessings. What else? What else do you see as a blessing that we have now?
peace that passes understanding, even when things are going wrong.
And what is that peace?
Just knowing that God's in control and that no matter what happens, it doesn't matter what happens to you here, as long as you have God and His word and His will and His promises.
And you know, I think that when this says that you learn obedience, one of the hardest lessons I think we learn is that God is in control. It doesn't, your whole world may seem to be in chaos, but there is control. You're just looking at the wrong place for it. I know I keep mentioning Betty's hummingbirds, but when you look, this is the thing that brings me a strong knowledge of the control of God. Here is a creation. All of the parts of this space and the heavens and the sun and the moon and the stars and the planets, and all in perfect control. Sun comes up, sun goes down. Moon changes every 28 days. The birds come in the spring, they leave in the fall. We have a change of seasons. The precision of this creation. And then think of you. I'm old. What do you know of that man ever made that lasted this long and is still up? I mean, no, I'm serious. What do you know that God has made that lasts for eternity, and man can't make a car that will last for 10 years? The precision, the care of God. So the consequences, we're back to that. I want you to remember at the bottom of page 29, obedience had to be learned even in heaven, for God spared not the angels that sinned. He spared not the world of Noah's day. He spared not Sodom and Gomorrah. All of these are examples of the need for complete obedience. These things that happened to the children of Israel are for our admonition. The breaking of law has consequences. Rob a bank, you're supposed to go to prison. I'm not saying you do all the time anymore, but think of the consequences that come from and the moral. I will tell you, and now one of the bad things about being this fool, I honestly remember when young people wore clothes.
Wore clothes? Oh.
I am shocked. At the girls, college-age girls in this town that look like they have nothing on but a t-shirt. You can't even see the panties under them. I know of the days when mothers required that their daughters' shorts come close to the knee. Now, you can't even see them. That I read on my phone about these celebrities that are wearing transparent And the more transparent it can be, and one, I don't know who this was, because you know, I don't hold these things in my mind. She was naked. She was naked. On display for TV.
And proud of it.
Well, yeah.
I'm convinced that's why I'm fat, because I'd probably walk around like that if I looked like that.
Well, I hadn't thought of that, Jack. But that's probably kept me honest. That's probably kept me honest.
That's me too, for sure, me, I tell you.
And that's funny, but she brings up a valid point, because I will admit there were times in my life when I lost a whole bunch of weight and I started dressing worse and I caught myself. And so that is something we do have to, when things change, we're not immune to it even. Like, I've always dressed modest, I feel like my entire life, but when I dropped a whole bunch of weight, I noticed it affected me in how I dress, and I had to fix that. And so that is the point of we can fall for that stuff too.
Oh, we can. And I will tell you, when we're talking about sins of us, I think one of our greatest temptations is that sin of vanity. Want my hair to look just so, yeah, right. I want the most expensive makeup. I want my clothes to be eye-catching. I want to be, and I will tell you, it is a thing that we deal with. And then I think that one of the major reasons for that, for the change in all of this, has been the fact that even we, have become to succumb to the thought, if it's socially acceptable, it's okay. You see, drinking, when it became legal everywhere, and even the grocery store carried it, people that would not go and buy it from a bootlegger would buy it at the grocery store. And I'm going to tell you, if they legalized marijuana in Texas, it would be the same thing. And Natasha said on this trip to Oregon, she said there was not a corner that didn't have a marijuana processor. She said it was everywhere, advertised completely. You knew whatever place was.
We were in Canada on a trip, and the day they legalized marijuana, they were selling it from liquor stores. And our bus driver said, look out your window. And they were wrapped plumb around the building, waiting to get it in to get it.
Yeah, but they wouldn't have gone to a drug dealer and got, I mean, some of them would, but some of them wouldn't have. So what society approves, and society has approved more and more, the shortening of the skirts and the dropping of the tops and the...
Well, I even think about 10 or 15 years ago, what was acceptable to talk about in the LGBTQ community and
Oh,
things like that,
man.
and just how quickly our society has accepted and then embraced. Like, there's the whole, what one generation tolerates, the next accepts, and the next celebrates, and just the trajectory of that is scary.
And I will say this also, the language. There is language that, you see, I told you all I'm old before indoor plumbing. Those were words written on the outhouse walls. Now, even the kids say it. Society accepts it. I like when a kid says something like that. Where do you draw the line between, and I have hoped, I have hoped that with this surge, even if it is not teaching truth, at least it is mentioning God and bringing God into focus and the Bible into focus, that there is going to be some from those that find truth, that seek truth and find truth and live truth. I hope that happens. Well, we're almost out of time, and I've rambled and rumbled all over the place, but now I want to tell y'all, one of the reasons that I haven't been very clear tonight is because I don't exactly agree with, I agree with everything that's taught here. I agree with everything that's taught here. I don't exactly agree that the lesson of Lot's wife is obedience. I'm not sure. And so for next week, I'm going to give you something to read, and I want you to tell me next week. But we will finish this out, and we will do these questions, and we will finish next week. Amy. Amy's put me on time, man. Hold on just one second. Let me get this for you. Well, I'd really like to do that. Go to Luke 17. In Luke 17, I want you to start at verse 26, and I want you to tell me what this is talking about. And it was as it was in the day of Noah, so it will be also in the days of the Son of Man. They ate, they drank, they married wives. They were given in marriage until the day that Noah entered the ark. And the flood came and destroyed them all. Likewise, as it was also in the days of Lot. They ate, they drank, they bought, they sold, they planted, they built. And on the day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. Now get this. Even so will it be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. In that day he is on the housetop, and his goods are in the house. Let him not come down to take them away. And likewise, the one who is in the field, let him not turn back. Remember Lot's wife. Whoever seeks to save his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life will preserve it. I tell you, in that night there will be two men in one bed. The one will be taken, the other left. Two women will be grinding together. The one will be taken, the other left. Two men will be in the field. The one will be taken, and the other left. I want y'all to reread that. I want you to mark Luke 17, starting with verse 26, ending in 36, and tell me what that has to do with Lot's wife. Remember Lot's wife. Now remember, she's only mentioned 3 times in the whole Bible. And this one is giving you the command to remember Lot's wife. And we're going to discuss that next week because our time's up. But we're going to finish this other and get the